Okay. All right, if we take a look at 31. 31 said, a family is driving to Houston, Texas. A sign indicates that they are 700 miles from Houston. All right, so we are driving to Houston, 700 miles left to go. All right. Their car's odometer indicates that they are 400 miles from home. Okay, so this is at one point in time. They are traveling at an average speed of 60 miles an hour. Okay. First one, it says, write an expression for the distance they will be from Houston in X hours. So part A is we want to write an equation for distance from Houston in X hours. Okay. So if I say distance from Houston equals, all right, well, right now they're 700 miles from Houston. How many of you guys agree with that? Okay. If they go another 100 miles, how far are they from Houston? So I'm trying to break this down in an easier way of looking at it to kind of figure out what math I'm going to do. Does that make sense to you guys? All right, so they're 700 miles now from Houston. If they drive 100 miles, how much left do they have to go? Danny? They have 600 miles. What did you do? Right, 700 minus 100. How many of you guys agree with that? Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that 700 and I'm going to subtract off the miles, the miles more they travel. How many of you guys agree with that? Okay. So this is going to be 700 minus, well, miles left to travel is going to be, I'm going to break this down even more. This is going to be my miles per hour times my number of hours. Do you guys agree with that? So I'm taking the time to write a very general idea of what I have to do and then break it down more specifically. I do recommend you guys do that when you're not sure what to do. Just come up with a very general idea of what you have to do and then figure out what math you have to do to accomplish that. Does that make sense to you guys? Okay, so then what I have is 700 minus, well, I'm driving 60 miles per hour, and I'm going to say X is my number of hours because I think that's what they told us to use, was X for number of hours. So this is X. So that is part A. All right. Part B is very similar to that, except it's going the other direction. They want to know, write an expression from the distance they are from home. So we're going to write an equation for distance from home. So I want you guys thinking along the same lines. So I'm going to say distance from home equals, well, at this point in time, I am 400 miles from home. How many of you guys agree with that? So this is miles. This is miles. Well, if I've driven 100 miles, how far am I from home? Am I 400 miles away now? If I've driven 100 miles, how far away am I from home? Matthew? If I start, right now I'm at 400 miles from home. If I travel another 100 miles, how far am I away from home? What did you do? Because it's however many more miles you drove. So I'm going to take that 400 miles, I'm going to add to it the number of miles more driven, or something like that. Does that make sense to you guys? Okay. How can I come up with that math? What is the breakdown of that math that I can do to find my number of miles more that I've driven? Amanda? Excellent. How many of you guys are good with that? All right, and there's my x. So I end up having here 400 plus 60x. So here is my distance to Houston, distance from Houston. Here's my distance from home. Questions on these two? If I gave this to you, I wouldn't have you do this in steps like A and B. I would simply say this part C part. All right, and I would expect you to be able to do these. All right, so they were just trying to guide you through this. Part C says, use the expressions from A and B to write and solve an equations to find the number of hours they will drive until they are exactly halfway. So what we want to do is we want to find the number of hours when they are halfway. What does it mean they're halfway? From a distance perspective, what does it mean that they're halfway? Molly? That's exactly right. My distance from Houston equals my distance from home. This is what I would give you only. And I would expect you to come up with A and B if I gave this to you. Okay? Because that is the game plan. Like, that's the overall game plan. When is the distance from home equal to the distance from Houston? And now that they had us come up with these individually, I'm just going to set these equal to each other. So my distance from Houston is 700 minus 60x is equal to 400 plus 60x. And then you would solve that. All right? Questions on this one? Okay. It says part D, suppose they travel local roads. They travel 700 miles at a speed of 45 miles an hour. How long will they drive before they are exactly? So this is the same kind of thing, but instead of driving 60 miles per hour, we're driving 45 miles per hour. You just make that adjustment in your equation. Does that help you guys? Yeah. How many hours? It says, use expression to find the number of hours they will drive until they are halfway. So we don't know how long it took them to get to the point where they were, put your hand down, when they were 700 miles from Houston and 400 miles from home. We don't care how long it takes us at that point. We want to know how many more hours that we have to drive. Does that make sense? Okay, Alex? I would give you this problem and I would simply give you part C. And you would have to know how to come up with part A and B because you need A and B for C. All right, so if I was doing that, this would be the first thing I come up with is that. That is your overall game plan. Put your hand down, please. All right, and then you'd be like, okay, how do I find my distance from Houston? And you would go back up and you'd be like, oh, I've got to take the 700 miles and I have to subtract off how many more I'm doing. Then you'd be like, oh, the distance from home, how do I figure that out? Oh, the distance from home is going to be 400 plus however many more I have driven away from home. And then you'd set that up. So yes, this is something I would give you. Okay, but not A and B. You'd have to figure that out for yourself. Okay. What else can I do for you guys? Patrick. All right, let's take a look at 27. Yes. I want this. So if I was to give this to you on a homework quiz, I would have this equal to this. That would be my game plan. Like I would start with this, and then I'd be like, oh, the distance from home is this. I'd come up with that as my game plan. That would be the right-hand side of my equation, my game plan. Then I would have this as my game plan from the distance from Houston. That would be the left-hand side of my game plan. So when you say, would I do a general game plan, this is my general game plan right here. And then I would break it down into these two pieces in game plan form. Does that make sense? You know what I mean? Okay. AJ, is your hand up? What do you need, sweetheart? Well, right now I'm doing 27. But I definitely will go over 32. So let's take a look at 27. 27 is probably more likely a type that I would give you. I think the one with the family driving can be difficult, a little bit more difficult. That was a little bit more challenging. So I would focus more like on a 27, something like that. Okay. So let's take a look at this. It says you lose your electronic tag that you use to pay tolls on the highway. It costs you $24 to replace the tag. The cost of one toll when you don't use a tag is $3. The cost of the same toll when you do use a tag is $1.50. Can you guys see we have two different situations here? We have a situation of the cost when you have a tag and a situation when you cost when you don't have the tag. How many of you guys recognize that? So you're going to have an expression for both of those. So I need you to organize your thoughts and your givens accordingly. So I'm going to say with tag and I say without tag. And I'm going to organize my thoughts just like this, kind of in column form. This is what I would recommend. Colin, sit up. This is what I would really recommend, especially on these harder ones, that you really take good care to organize your thoughts and organize writing your givens down very carefully. Okay, so let me ask you guys something. Put your pens down for a second. Next year, you are going to be writing outlines to Mrs. Bajunga, right? This year, she gives you the outline, you guys fill it in, right? Does that sound right? Is that kind of what you guys do? Okay, so what she's teaching you to do is she's teaching you to read the entire section of whatever you're reading, right? Then go back and do an outline. Has she taught you that? Okay, not read and outline all at the same time. Why am I not reading, the first time I read it, why am I not filling in details and outlining the first time I read it? Why am I not doing that? Brendan?
Well, there's two things. She only lets us use like one paper, but that's not really.
Well, that gives you a limit, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
We have to like comprehend it and not like always read it as like you just say and stuff. Write it all down.
And write everything down, right?
Yeah, like even without the important parts.
Excellent. So when you're reading it the first time, aren't you guys going through and being like, okay, that's important, that's really not important. That's important, that's really not important. Isn't that what you're kind of doing? And you're taking the things that are important and you're trying to condense them down into like a single sentence rather than 5 sentences to try and say that one thing, right? Isn't that kind of what she's trying to teach you to do? All right, on these games, on these story problems, that's what I want you doing. I want you reading the entire thing through. And I don't want you writing every word from the story problem. I want you organizing your information so it's easy to see. Bullet point things. You know, on these, we're going to do with tag information, without tag information. Because I feel like when you do that, things that you need to write, like those sentences like, Ava is going, has $15 more than Nico, right? Like, that is a math sentence. You almost kind of need that entire sentence. Versus here, we just have bullet points that I can just write down. Does that make sense to you guys? So it is important that you recognize what do I need all of and what can I just write parts of. All right, so here's going to be a part stuff. So it says when we have a tag, for us to have a tag, first of all, the tag costs $24. We also know that the toll, it costs $1.50 per toll. What do I know about my costs without a tag? Come on. What do I know about my costs without a tag? Matthew? Excellent. It's $3 per toll. Well, I have a situation here where I have cost with a tag, cost without a tag. So let's read the rest. It says, how many times will you have to use the tag to pay for the tolls in order for the cost to be the same as without? All right, so what we want to know is we want to find the number of tolls when the cost with tag equals cost without tag. There is my general game plan. Colin, sit up, get your head up, pay attention to what I'm doing. Please. So here's my general game plan. It organizes my thoughts. I don't have parts equal to my whole here. because I have two different situations that I'm comparing to each other. So there is no parts equal to your whole. This is what I want to start with. So now I'm going to break it down. What kind of costs do I have when I have a tag? What are the costs that I have when I have a tag? Valentina? So I have the cost of the tag, right? Plus so I have the cost per toll times my number of tolls. How many of you guys agree that that's all the costs I have when you have a tag? Does that make sense? Okay. How do I figure out the cost when I don't have a tag? AJ? Excellent. There is my detailed game plan. All right, I don't know the number of tolls. They are both my X. Alex?
I switched, when you have tag, I switched, into
I don't care which side of the equal sign they're all on. I mean, this information needs to be together. This information needs to be together. Is that what you mean?
I switched, so when you go through digital tag, without it, I switched to flip phone of
What do you mean you switched them? I don't understand.
like,
So when I write my equation, I have 24 plus 1.50x is equal to 3x. What do you mean you switched them?
so I did 24 plus 3x.
Why?
I still got the same.
No, you did not get the same answer. No, you did not. You got a negative. Why did you switch them? What does the $3 represent? Then why did you put it with a tag? Isn't the cost of a toll, if you are buying a toll, if you're buying a tag, you pay $24. And you pay $1.50 every time you go through. Okay. If you don't have a tag, you pay $3 every time you go through. So you have to make sure that you match the information together. My guess is, because the order in which they gave it to you in the game, in the story itself, you flip-flopped. Because it says it costs you $24 to replace the tag. The cost of one toll when you don't use a tag is $3. The cost of the same toll when you do use a tag is $1.50. So they kind of put the cost without the tag before they put the cost with the tag. My guess is you flip-flop. But you can't put your hand down. You can't just get a negative answer and say, oh, I must have got it right. I must have got a sign wrong. You can't do that. If you get a negative answer, and your answer can't be negative, you did something wrong. You can't just leave it. You've got to go back and you've got to say to yourself, okay, clearly I did something wrong because I can't have a negative number of tolls. Fix it. All right, you can't do that. And on a test, I won't give you credit for that. Because you guys are smart enough to know I can't have a negative number when it's information that can't be negative. Molly. Why? Is 24 the cost of the only cost of the tag? Okay. Is 3x minus $1.50x, is that the cost of a toll with a tag or without a tag? No. You guys, this is your game plan. Put your hand down. This is what it said. After how many tolls will you go where the cost with the tag is the same as the cost without? The cost with the tag equals the cost without a tag. Why are you guys messing around with that? This is your game plan. Cost with equals cost without. Don't mess around with that. It's going to make you confused, I promise. The moment you're like, oh, if I put this with this and this with this, I can do this. No. No, 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 no. When is this equal to this? That's it. And fill it in. Okay? That is the key to this. Trust me. All right, what else can I do from the homework? Matthew. Okay, so if I finish solving this, I gave you the answer. So I end up with 24 is equal to $1.50 times x. Divide both sides by $1.50. So if I do 24 divided by 1.5, I end up with x is equal to 16. So 16 tolls, and I hope that was the answer they gave us. Yes. What else can I do for you guys? AJ? Excellent. All right, 32 says, again, 32 is a good one. All right, it says a pasta machine costs $33. The ingredients to make one batch of pasta costs 33 cents. The same amount of pasta can be purchased at a store for 99 cents for a box. How many batches of pasta will you make for the cost of the machine and the ingredients to equal the cost of buying the same amount of pasta? There's your game plan. I'm going to write that from the very beginning, and then I'm going to write the rest of this down. We want the cost of machine and ingredients equal the cost of buying. That's our game plan. All right, so now let's write down what we know. I'm just going to kind of categorize these things underneath it, and then we'll write a detailed game plan. So here, the cost of buying the machine is $33. Then they tell us it's 33 cents per batch for ingredients. Okay. The cost of buying, we know, it's 99 cents per batch to buy the pasta. How many of you guys can already see the game plan in your head? Okay? How many of you guys are like, oh, that makes it a lot easier when I write that general game plan? Dude, then write the general game plan. Make this easy on yourselves, please. Write that general game plan. So now let's fill this in. How do I figure out what's my game plan for the cost of buying the machine and the ingredients? Cullen? No, not times. Excellent.
Cost per batch times number of batches
Excellent.
is equal to
Go ahead.
cost of
Batch, right?
batch
Yeah.
times number of batches.
Excellent. I don't know my number of batches. There's my x. So Cullen, go ahead and write my equation now for me.
It will be 33 plus 0.33x is equal to 0.99x.
Excellent. And then I would solve that. Yep.
So I know the answer is 50, but is it 50 batches for the 0.99 or 20?
Both. That's the answer.
Because
After 50 batches, they will be the same amount of money. Yeah, that's what the answer means. So when they hit 50 batches, that's when the costs are equal, right? That's what that means. Okay, does that make sense? So when we get done here, I have x equals 50. That's a really good question. Like, what does that answer mean? So I would say after 50 batches, the cost of buying the machine and ingredients is equal to the cost of buying the pasta. All right, that would be the sentence I would expect to see. So that's a longer sentence, but that's the explanation. AJ? Yep. Yes.
So I ended up with 33 equals 0.66x.
Okay, so let's take a look.
I have to say those are the.
All right, well, let's take a look. I'm assuming that's what it says. They said 50 batches, so let's take a look. So if I subtract 0.33x from both sides, all right, so I get 0.99. Oh, there it goes. 0.99 minus 0.33. All right, so I end up with 33 is equal to 0.66x. I'm going to divide 33 by 0.66. And I get 50. I don't know what you're talking about. Yep. Nope, I get 50. Nope, here, I'll prove it to you in my calculator. There you go, AJ. 33 divided by 0.66. Okay? I love that you guys are questioning it because sometimes the book is wrong. What's wrong? There's some right here and it's in the closet. You can take this and bring it over there, please. That would be great. All right, what else can I do for you guys? Do you guys feel better about these story problems? I cannot impress on you guys enough the need to come up with that. And recognize when you have a situation where you have two different situations and you're comparing it to each other. Versus when we have one situation. So if I was to break this into one situation, I might say, I have $200 to spend on buying a pasta machine and all the ingredients to make the pasta. How many batches can I make for that amount of money? That would be one situation, parts equal to your whole. Total money to spend equals the 33 plus 0.33x. That's an individual thing. We're not comparing them together. So as you're reading these story problems, you've got to be able to say, okay, am I comparing two situations or do I just have one situation? Make sense of that first. Because if you have one situation, then you do have parts equal to your whole. If you're comparing two situations, you're like, okay, what am I comparing? In my advanced 8th grade class, we just did these equations. But what I did for theirs was I gave them information it had to do with French-speaking students and Spanish-speaking students. And I gave them the information of how many there are now, how much it increases per year for one, how many they have now, and how much it decreases per year for the other. And then the sentence was, after how many years will the number of Spanish-speaking students be 4 times the amount of French-speaking? That is their game plan. Number of Spanish-speaking equals 4 times the number of French-speaking. That was their game plan, and then they had to do these. They were comparing two things together. That's the situation that we have. Equation for one, equation for the other, set them equal to each other. Does that make sense? So please read through these story problems and really make sense of what they're asking you. Okay? Because on a test, you're going to need to know the difference between a singular thing that you would have parts equal to your whole versus comparing two things together. Okay? Okay, you guys can go. Let's go first, please. I will get those worksheets to you very soon because I will go get them made here in a second.